So today we're going to talk about innovation as it pertains to the future of higher education. They always say that innovation is obvious in hindsight and that hindsight is 20/20, but innovators don't think that way because innovators are visionaries. They imagine the future and then they go out and introduce new ideas, methods, products into the world and literally create that world that we live in. So let's be visionaries today. In closing today, let's think about the most meaningful, efficient, and Penn State buzzword, robust education that we can achieve here at this university, and let's talk and discuss about tangible ways that we can implement that over the next 5 to 6 years. Today, I want to help answer the question, what will a Penn State education look like in 2020? So, let's first talk about engaged scholarship. Engaged scholarship attacks the actual education that we receive, and I know that we've had a few people mention it today, but I want to really delve into it. I've had a lot of conversations, this is why it's so important to me, I've had a lot of conversations with students, faculty, peers, people that I'm in clubs with about the fact that we really learn a lot at Penn State, but a lot of it occurs outside of the classroom. And the fact is that a lot of education and a lot of research in the future of higher education proves that this conclusion is correct, that the actual education that we receive might be more beneficial from out-of-classroom learning experiences. And particularly George Q. from Indiana University, he says that the success of students is highly dependent and contingent upon the engagement across out-of-classroom learning experiences that complement the actual learning that we do inside the classroom. And basically, that's exactly what engaged scholarship is, these out-of-classroom learning experiences that we sort of benefit and complement our in-class learning experiences with. That could be your capstone course, that could be a study abroad program, a study away program, it could be undergraduate research or anything of that nature. But the point is that you really learn from those experiences. You develop critical thinking skills, collaborative abilities that employers say that they really want from students when they graduate. Some of the examples that they use for engaged scholarship when they show the slideshows and the videos are the HESI program, in which students from Penn State go to Africa and they create scalable, sustainable solutions for African villages that deal with healthcare, they deal with agriculture, their food, their water systems. We also heard earlier today about the Nittany Lion Fund, where students are getting credit for actually investing real money from Penn State alumni. But the point is that not all Penn State students can be in the Nittany Lion Fund or travel to Africa and be so fortunate to take such a class. So we need to figure out a way that we can address these solutions and scale them to a university as large as Penn State. And so I'm not the first person at Penn State to be talking about this issue. The Council on Engaged Scholarship has been diligently investigating the issue for the past year, but the point is that the more people that know about this, the more of a serious issue and the more serious people will get about it as the future continues, as we continue on to the next generation of Penn Staters. And so the point is that we can't really address these issues unless people know about them, and you can't advocate for them unless you're really educated on them. The other issue is that when you have a university as large as Penn State, it's very difficult to try to create transformative change and try to scale engaged scholarship across the Commonwealth to 98,000 plus students. And so I'm not here today to just talk about issues, but I'm here today to talk about tangible solutions that we can find for these issues. So when we're talking about engaged scholarship, it's not just about those trips to Africa. It's not just about the Nittany Lion Fund. It's about going out into our communities, going out to the communities of the 19 Commonwealth campuses, and isolating these individual ways that we can actually partake in engaged scholarship. You can go to your individual advisors, you can go to your faculty members, go to your professors, go to your administrators, go to anyone that you know, and try to isolate different ways that we can actually participate within our communities and get credit for those. If we do that little by little, and we start this year, and then we go to next year, and then students the year after that, we can actually build a library of these resources that students year after year can create sustainable ways to actually participate in engaged scholarship. So the only way to do that is to actually start now. We can't just keep talking about it. We have to start talking to our professors and start figuring out and isolating these ways. If we can do that, hopefully by 2020, Penn State students won't be bored in the classroom anymore, and they'll really be partaking in that engaged scholarship that we know that we can benefit from and develop those critical thinking and collaborative skills. So the second thing that I wanted to talk about to you today is open educational resources, which deals with sort of the land-grant mission of Penn State, which is access and affordability to our education throughout the Commonwealth. But instead of tuition, which is obviously a very complex issue that we don't really have much say in right now, we're going to talk about something that we do have control over, and those are textbooks. If you didn't know, the average student in the United States spends $1,207 on textbooks every single year. In addition to that, textbook costs, according to the Government Accountability Office, have risen 82% in the past 10 years. And because of these high rising costs, because of the monopoly that the textbook companies have on the market, 7 out of 10 students in America admit to not purchasing a textbook because they did not want to bear the cost and they didn't feel like they were actually benefiting from the use of that book. And so that's clearly a problem, and it doesn't seem to be stopping because the textbook companies have absolutely no reason or incentive to create any sort of competitive edge with the other textbook companies because they know that all students are going to be required year after year, semester after semester, to just buy these textbooks, whether we use them or not, whether we truly benefit from them. And so once again, I'm not here to just tell you about a problem and then go home, see if you can solve it yourself. There are tangible solutions. I'm just here to sort of bring the idea to you, and maybe you're the first person to hear this at Penn State, or maybe you're not, but the more people that know about these issues is the most important part, kind of like this entire conference in general. So open educational resources, basically what they are free textbooks that are open, available online. You can view them online, you can view them in PDF and EPUB versions. You can also print them for free from your computers. And they're perfect. They are available on the first day of class. They're open and adaptable through the Creative Commons license. So it's really the ideal form of learning that we can do at any institution throughout the country, especially one that's as large as Penn State, when we have so many classes and there's just so many different ways that you can get books and so many different books that you might need. But the problem is we have to take sort of the money out of the equation in some way in order to incentivize professors and others to actually want to write these textbooks. Because the textbook companies are the ones that are making the money, not the professors, just to clarify that. And so we still have to figure out a way to get the professors to make money. And the way that we do this is we need to incentivize them in other ways. So if we take the textbook companies out of the equation, where do we get the money? And that's where the tangible solutions come in. The tangible solutions are institutional investments. Institutions can be anything, but the ones that I want to talk to you about today are sort of the ones that make the most sense in terms of investing in open educational resources. The first would be the institution as far as the university. What we can do in order to create a tangible solution for this textbook problem is encourage Penn State, not necessarily lobby them, but work through the available channels and resources and avenues and encourage them to invest institutional resources, money, effort, staff support, and encourage faculty and librarians to write these textbooks and house these textbooks so that little by little, year after year, Penn State, we can create an open resources library. We can also lobby, this is where the lobbying comes in, we can also lobby our local government, our state government, our national government. There are a couple bills that are actually going through the national government right now, but we can lobby them to invest their own government dollars into what we see is a very crucial topic, crucial issue, and a crucial resource for the future of higher education, being textbooks. And with that money, we can take the textbook companies out of the equation, we can incentivize the professors to actually write these books, and they'll be compensated enough initially that the students can receive these books and use them and benefit from them for years to come without having to bear the costs that we currently bear. But the important thing here is the open resources library. Little by little, if we create these open resources libraries here at Penn State, we can have 1 book, then 2 books, then 3 books that all these students can use, but it's not just here at Penn State. If we have our library, then Indiana has its library. Minnesota actually already has its own library. If we do this at universities throughout the country, we create a massive, interconnected web of open educational resources that professors, students, faculty, staff, academics all across the world can adapt through the Creative Commons license. All you have to do is sort of give the person who wrote the book originally credit, and then the people after that, and so on and so forth. Basically, if we do this, we continue to advocate through the proper channels to invest in these open educational resources through our universities, through our local and state and national governments. Hopefully, students in 2020, 5 to 6 years down the line at Penn State University, will not have to bear the same ridiculous costs that we do and that students have in the past 10 years, 10, 15, 20 years for textbooks that you may or may not even use. So with that being said, talking about engaged scholarship, talking about textbooks, talking about the future of higher education, the most important thing is to have conversations like this, but not just to have the conversations, but when you have the discussions after you hear people speak, to think about tangible solutions, not just thinking about things philosophically, but figuring out exactly how we can solve this within the reasonable and realistic and pragmatic avenues that we have available to us as members of a university community. So I just wanted to thank you. I think this is an absolutely wonderful opportunity to have a discussion about the tangible solutions, and I think that conversations like this will forever be better for the glory of dear old state. So thank you very much.